Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelli Fox. Each week, Kelli will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelli Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelli each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm Kelli Fox, your host and astrologer. This week, what have we got going on? Mercury Retrograde. I'm sure most of you have heard of Mercury Retrograde, which instills fear into many of us. Also this week, Venus, the love planet, moves into its ruling sign of Taurus. So find out what that means for you, and with Mercury turning retrograde in Taurus as well. So Mercury retrograde is a phenomenon that has been around and worked its way into mass consciousness. The amount of people as time goes on who I have heard from who mention Mercury retrograde in fear. Now, when I was a student many years ago, Mercury retrograde wasn't as feared as what it is now. So it's interesting to see how it's evolved into something great and big. Now, it will all be dependent on how that fits with you and how Mercury retrograde will be triggering your chart and your planets. But the moment any type of communication snafu occurs, folks blame Mercury retrograde. And it's really interesting because I hear it throughout the year and not necessarily when Mercury is retrograde. So many people contact me and say, is it Mercury retrograde because of XYZ or something that's happened? So I'm curious and entertained at the same time about this. But the truth is, not all miscommunications can be laid at the feet of this little planet. But it does benefit us to observe a few simple principles about this event. Now, Mercury appears to turn backward in its path around the Zodiac 3 times a year. This year it will be 4 times. But for 3 times a year, and each time it's about 21 days at a time, so it's about 3 weeks when Mercury's retrograde. There's also a period called the shadow of Mercury retrograde, which is basically when it's stationary, and stationary means it appears to be standing still from our perspective here on Earth, and it just means that it's about ready to slow down. Now, technically, the planets don't travel backwards in their orbit around the sun. They just slow down. So they move around the sun in their orbit at varying speeds. And so right now, Thursday, Mercury will appear to be traveling backwards, but it doesn't actually travel backwards. It just slows down so much that it appears to be traveling backwards from our perspective here on Earth. And this is not just Mercury, this is all the planets. So all the planets move at varying speeds around the sun in their orbit, and when they're moving very slowly, that's called a retrograde, or the appearance of travelling backwards. So with Mercury about to turn retrograde, what we can do during these 3-week retrograde periods is pause. It forces us to slow down and to pause and maybe catch up on old correspondence, read a book that's been sitting on the nightstand, catch up on phone calls, clear out the inbox, catch up on messaging and any sort of communication that's been left unattended. And anyone who knows that Mercury retrograde it's a great time to do things that start with RE. So that's a good thing to think of during a Mercury retrograde period. It's to repair, redo, reduce, reconsider, recreate. Anything that starts with an RE is a great rule for a Mercury retrograde period. Also this week, I mentioned love planet Venus changes sign. Now the planets change sign, that's called an ingress. So Venus is making an ingress into Taurus, and so that's a good influence, not that it's good or bad or positive or negative, but it is what it is. But Venus rules Taurus. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, so Venus will be happy the next few weeks when it's in Taurus. And so during the next few weeks, many of us might find that we love our creature comforts more so than usual. And we might even be willing to pay for those luxuries that sweeten our everyday experience. Also, material security will be a priority, and focusing on our savings account is also a good use of this energy. Also, when Venus is in Taurus, our magnetism is strong because Venus likes being in Taurus, and many of us might have a lot of admirers or people paying attention to us. Loyalty and stability are important during this time, and socializing with a few close friends rather than getting out there and networking and connecting with lots of people. And as always, at the end of the show, I will be going through your weekly horoscope and an overview of what's happening this week. So basically, the two main events for this week are Mercury turning retrograde on Thursday, and on Friday, Venus moves into Taurus. Last week was a very busy week. We had Mars retrograde, Pluto retrograde, Sun in Taurus, full moon, and some other aspects there. But overall, a very busy week. This week, not as busy, but I would say a Mercury retrograde makes up for the lack of other astrological influences. Now, Mercury will be turning retrograde on Thursday, and it will be retrograde until May 22nd, and it will be travelling backwards through Taurus. So anyone with planets in Taurus or the fixed signs will be more affected, and the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So anybody that is one of those signs or has planets in those signs will more so be feeling the effects of this Mercury retrograde. So it's going to be important to take care with what you say, or redo something, or things that might be open-ended from the past might arise. Now, taking a step back, Mercury is the little planet that travels fastest around the sun. It's the closest planet to the sun. And in astrology, Mercury rules how we think and communication. Now, there are all different kinds of communicators in this world. We've got strong, silent types who speak only when they feel it's absolutely necessary. Then we've got the chatty, witty types who could carry on a conversation with just about anyone. And I think of people that might have Mercury in Gemini as those types. And also how some people might put their foot in their mouth. I think of Mercury in Sagittarian types of people that might do that. What about the people who always seem to speak with the utmost grace and tact? Definitely Mercury in Libra types of people. So the way you communicate has a lot to do with the planet Mercury, which is often called the planet of communication and also rules your thought processes, your logic or lack thereof, your intellectual ideas, and the way you get those ideas across to the world. So the Mercury retrograde period, which is what I'm talking about, and I said it happens when Mercury seems to move backward in its path through the heavens. To understand the effects of a Mercury retrograde period, think of it like this. Since this planet rules things that flow, and that's communication, network connections, and so on, when it goes retrograde, it hinders that easy flow. Communication gets difficult, and misunderstandings often result when Mercury is retrograde. Planes take off late, or your letters get lost in the mail. Lots of people experience Mercury retrograde periods as a difficult few weeks, because every effort they make to get something across seems to be thwarted or just stopped in its tracks. So thank goodness that this retrograde period lasts less than a month. I also think that it has a reputation which puts fear into many of us. Mercury rules the intellectual signs of Gemini and Virgo, which are both mutable, and so they're versatile and flexible. Anyway, after the break, I will be continuing more on Mercury retrograde and what to expect.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Alicia Isaacs-Howes.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. You can find us every week here on OMTimes Radio at Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox. This week I'm talking about Mercury retrograde. Mercury turns retrograde on Thursday in Taurus. And so I'm just giving you the backstory of what Mercury is, what it's about. Then I'm going to go through each of the signs on how it's going to be affected by this Mercury retrograde. It's not all doom and gloom. I know it seems like it might be, and you may have heard negative stories, and we all have one to tell, but it doesn't have to be all bad. It's all about redoing something from the past, or reviewing, or recycling. Anything that starts with an RE is a good use of this influence. So I want to talk to you about the cycles of Mercury. Now, before the break, I was talking about Mercury being the planet of communication, and it's long been considered the messenger of the gods. It's the closest planet to the sun, and it zips around the sun in a mere 88 days compared to the Earth's 365, typically. And from our perspective here on Earth, Mercury is never more than 28 degrees from the sun. Usually it's even closer, which means Mercury is always in either the same zodiac sign as the sun, or the sign just before, or the sign just after. Now, this is significant because, say, if somebody's an Aries sun, they have their sun in Aries, Mercury is either going to be in Pisces, Aries, or Taurus. That's about it. It can't be in any other sign. So Mercury is always very close to the sun. And as I said, it goes retrograde about 3 times a year. This year it will be 4 times, but that's only because the last retrograde period is at the very end of the year, and the first was close to the beginning of this year. And when Mercury is retrograde, it reminds us to slow down and move more cautiously, by choice or sometimes by force. So this planet's retrograde periods are often held responsible for everything from traffic accidents to computer crashes to misunderstandings to plane delays. And I have travelled on during some Mercury retrograde periods, and I can tell you that I was certainly blaming Mercury retrograde during this frustrating time. So Mercury's close proximity to the sun makes it difficult to see, because the sun, anything that gets near the sun is called incombust or combustion. So it's burnt up by the rays of the sun. That's why it can be hard to see Mercury. And when you can see it, it appears for only 2 weeks at a time, alternating as a morning star and an evening star, and then disappearing for a couple of weeks in between. And it's never visible from areas of the world with high latitudes. And if you are lucky enough to see it, look for a bright twinkling star near the horizon shortly before dawn or after sundown. And so Mercury returns to its original position in the natal chart approximately once a year. So this time next year, Mercury will be around the same spot it is right now. And so when this occurs, it's a time to recharge the mental batteries. So it's called a Mercury return, and it's a time for new beginnings or a new cycle. And it's a time really for pondering what you've learned in that year and how your thinking has evolved during this 1 year period and where you're going. So Mercury retrograde has worked its way into mass consciousness. And as I've said, so many people contact me in great fear about Mercury retrograde, or if something gets, if there's any sort of snafu, Mercury gets the blame when it's retrograde. So it's true, but it's not always the case. There are other astrological influence that can be blamed if you're looking to blame something when there are miscommunications. And yes, Mercury is usually involved, sometimes by hard aspect, but it's not always Mercury retrograde. And it's a great time for doing something that starts with an RE, repair, reduce, reconsider, recreate, redo, review, recycle. But the best way is to turn the thoughts inward rather than outward. And taking care of personal affairs is a great idea. Closing anything that's open-ended And it's also not a very good time to sign a contract. And if you can, avoid signing a contract during a Mercury retrograde. Most of the time you might not be able to. There has been many times in my experience when I have tried to plan around, above, under, over a Mercury retrograde, and sometimes it's just not possible. So I have the personal experience of telling you that I may have signed a contract here and there with great fear or angst, very close or on a Mercury retrograde, knowing full well that it was out of my control, but knowing there might be some hiccup further down the line. And yes, I think in every case there was. So it's important, if you can, avoid signing any sort of contract on a Mercury retrograde, making any major travel plans, or even making a major purchase, because Mercury also rules commerce. So if you can avoid making any sort of major purchase during a Mercury retrograde, that would be good. Now, there's always going to be something that goes on astrologically. It is very hard to avoid. We have to live our lives as well, but live life to the fullest and with intention. And if you can plan your life accordingly, when it's more auspicious astrologically, so much the better. Oh, and also, try not to buy any sort of electronic equipment during this period. Buying a computer or a new phone might be best to try and avoid that. So this Mercury retrograde will be in Taurus. And Taurus isn't very comfortable when it comes together with Mercury. It will affect our judgment and interaction on financial matters. So anything to do with finances during the next 3 weeks, we need to use extra care as we go about our business. Any new ventures should be regarded with a great deal of caution, especially when dealing with large sums of money, because Taurus is one of the money signs. If we're negotiating during the next few weeks, we might be met with resistance, because Taurus is also a fixed sign. So a lot extra time for compromise and any sort of last-minute details. Avoid taking any risks when Mercury is retrograde in Taurus, especially with regard to the stock market, and as I said, any sort of big purchases. If you must make important decisions on money matters, read through details very carefully. Don't skim lightly over any clauses or disclosures on contracts. Use your magnifying glass and ask questions when in doubt. One of the more effective uses during this planetary period is to revisit your financial papers of the past. So look through any old receipts or review your financial statements, refinance mortgage payments, solve any tax questions you may have. This period may also find you at odds with others during conversations. Because Mercury will be retrograde in Taurus, it's about people getting opinionated, fixed in their opinions, stubborn, inflexible. So take care not to butt heads or be too rigid in your thinking, and know when to yield when given good reason. Bullheadedness can be a potential symptom of this celestial influence. So try not to inspire resistance. So, what this Mercury retrograde will mean for your sign. Aries, this is all about money matters during this Mercury retrograde in Taurus, reviewing any financials from the past. You might be forced to do that, or you may choose to do that. If you're a Taurus, this is Mercury in your own sign, and this is all about you. Everybody's looking at you with what you're saying, how you're coming across, how you look, your appearance. but basically it's what you're saying about you. This is also not a great time for a cosmetic procedure, so just take care with your words when Mercury is retrograde in your own sign. If you're a Gemini, Mercury will be triggering your 12th house, and so this means pay attention to your dreams, listen to your intuition, remember things from the past. But also, if you need to be dealing with any sort of large institution or corporation, it might be a frustrating time. Bureaucracy, red tape might be an issue. It could be a very frustrating time when dealing with large institutions. If you're a Cancer, friends and acquaintances from the past may reconnect. So there might be people coming up out of the woodwork during this Mercury retrograde period. And it's not going to be people you don't want to see necessarily. It's just going to be people that you have known from the past. And they might come back and talk about the good old days, and there might be some really nice connection there. If you're a Leo, there might be any sort of career issues coming up from the past, any sort of jobs you had, any sort of career or vocation, anything around your job, your professional life may come up during this Mercury retrograde period. You might have to be reviewing or redoing something from or for work. If you're a Virgo, now this is interesting because your sector of foreign travel, legalities, publishing will be triggered with this Mercury retrograde in Taurus. So you might be booking travel somewhere you've been previously. If it's somewhere you haven't been, take extra care. After the break, I will continue with the remaining signs and how Mercury will be affecting you.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm Kelli Fox, your host and astrologer. So I'm talking about Mercury Retrograde, and Mercury's turning retrograde in Taurus on Thursday. And I just talked about the first 6 signs and how that's going to be affecting Aries through Virgo. Now I'm going to cover the next 6 signs, Libra, and how you're going to be affected by the Mercury retrograde in Taurus is there could be over the next few weeks secrets and deep issues coming to the surface. Things that might have been suppressed or repressed, you may have to deal with, particularly around any sort of finances. Something that has been hidden may come to light. And if you're trying to keep a secret, it might not be a secret for much longer. Scorpio, what's coming up for you during this Mercury retrograde period is deep and meaningful conversations with your sweetheart. So if there's any topics that you may have been avoiding, this will be the time to bring them out into the open. And that might be by choice or by force. But either way, take care with communication with your partner because things may become misconstrued. So it's important to be very clear with what you want, not think the other person can read your mind. So it's going to be very important to speak your mind and be very clear about what it is and what you want. If you're a Sagittarius, Mercury retrograde will be affecting you at work. So take care with what you say to colleagues or the work that you do. You may find over the next few weeks that you might have to redo something, redo some work from the past or something from previous. So don't get bent out of shape about it. It's better just to go with the flow, get on with it, and redo it, because this is a time for reviewing or redoing. If you're a Capricorn, a lover from the past might re-emerge. So over the next few weeks, somebody you may have had a romance with might reappear. Notice I'm using the RE words for Mercury retrograde. So a lover from the past might reappear if you're a Capricorn. Also, a risk that you may have taken previously, the consequences might come about during this Mercury retrograde period. So look out for that as well. If you're an Aquarian, take care with your communication with family members. Family members might hear something different to what you're saying. And for some of us, that's not unusual. But if you're an Aquarian dealing with family members, take 3 deep breaths before responding to any sort of family members under this Mercury retrograde period. If you're a Pisces, communication overall needs to be given some forethought and care, because it's a double whammy for you with the Mercury retrograde, which is all about communication, and then it's triggering your sector of communication. So who knows, maybe 2 negatives make a positive in this case for you. But overall, take care with your communication, what you hear, what you say during this 3-week period. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, Love planet Venus moves into Taurus, where it will stay until May 24th. Now, this is good news for the earth signs, or anybody that has planets in earth signs, and that's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So I'm going to take a step back now and talk about Venus and what is Venus, what does it rule, how does it influence us. So Venus is a very sweet, affectionate, and romantic planet. Venus is all about pleasure, especially when it's in Taurus, and about bringing people together and uniting them in harmony. So this planet rules not just love and dating, but also friendships, partnerships, and any sort of social gathering. It also rules finances, and this is a way to treat yourself and your friends to a wonderful dinner out or a spontaneous romantic gift of flowers or chocolates to the one you love. Now, where Venus lies in your chart influences how you approach any kind of partnership. Are you comfortable with intimacy or just a little bit leery of getting too close and dependent? Do you live for love or are you just fine with being on your own? And when it comes to friendship and business, how do you work with other people? Do you avoid trouble by letting the other person lead? Or do you tend to assert your vision regardless of what the other person wants? All of this is related to the workings of Venus. Now, money is also within this planet's realm. It will show if you're good with money, cautious, conservative, and only taking calculated, well-thought-out risks. It will also show if you tend to be more indulgent and less prudent, spending too much, believing that more is better, and pleasure is priceless. Venus rules the affectionate signs of Taurus and Libra. So when it moves into Taurus on Friday, it will be happy because it will be with one of its signs that it rules. So when Venus is in Taurus, and depending on how it influences or affects your birth chart, you could find yourself indulging in the sensual side of life. So many of us are likely to take our time expressing warmth and affection towards our sweeties, and will likewise revel in receiving physical contact, because Taurus is a sign of tactile sensuality, touchy-feely, and Venus is very pleased with that. Many of us might love our creature comforts more so during the next few weeks, and we're willing to pay for those luxuries that sweeten our everyday experience. Even if our budget is tight, we've got a knack for making a little go a long way. And many of us can be quite resourceful because Taurus is one of the money signs, and Venus has not just a sweet tooth, but it does like to indulge. So when you bring those two energies together, Venus in Taurus, look out in a good way. And, with this influence, quality is more important than quantity. So if you approach possessions and people as long-term investments, that's a good use of this energy. Let's not think disposable. Let's think quality, long-term, lasting, because Taurus is a fixed sign and it's all about long-term. Also during this time, material security will be a priority, and many of us can make solid progress in building our savings account. But to do that, we need to temper our tendency toward indulgence. Sometimes this energy can be a little bit self-indulgent, self-absorbed, likes the luxuries. I tend to think with this energy, this is just my own visualization when I think of Venus in Taurus. Many of us satin sheets and strawberries dipped in chocolate and the finest quality goods, even the butler called Alfred at our beck and call. I mean, I'm exaggerating here, but it's like, if you get my drift, that's Venus in Taurus. the finer things in life. Also, during this transit, many of us will find our magnetism is strong, and potential suitors could be irresistibly drawn to us. And that's more so for the earth signs, because Taurus is an earth sign, the other two being Virgo and Capricorn. So anybody born of those signs or has any planets in those signs, this is all about you and the sensual side of life. But many of us aren't likely to jump into any romance too impulsively if we're single, because Taurus is a slow and steady sign that likes to take its time and think through things. Taurus does have high standards, especially when it's in with Venus. And many of us who will be influenced with the Venus in Taurus will be looking for a lasting commitment. Loyalty and stability are important now, and socializing with just a few close friends rather than painting the town red with anybody you encounter. Also, our artistic side might want to come out under this influence, and creative projects with practical applications could be especially appealing for many of us. Any sort of home decorating, it's a good use of Venus in Taurus, because Venus in Taurus, that placement typically has good taste, refined taste, quality over quantity. So it's interesting because Mercury Retrograde will be in Taurus alongside of Venus in Taurus. So there's a lot of Taurian energy at this time. And with Venus in Taurus, it's all about beauty and refinement. And with Mercury in Taurus retrograde, it's all about redoing something or looking at something from the past. And as I went through each of the signs before, you know, with Aries, this energy is about money, and Taurus, it's about appearance and self, and Gemini, it's about tapping into intuition. Cancer, it's about friends. Leo, career. Virgo, publishing and travel. Libra, secrets and money. Scorpio, partnership. Sagittarius, work and health. Capricorn, romance, risks. Aquarius, family members. And Pisces, communication. After the break, I'll go through your weekly horoscope.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
So this week, it's all about Mercury Retrograde and Venus in Virgo. And how does that affect you? So I talked about how the Mercury Retrograde will be affecting you, Venus in Taurus will be affecting you, and specifically in certain areas of your life. And so really, it's more about practicality with these planets in Taurus and get it done energies start the week. But when Mercury turns retrograde, it's time to stop and reflect. With Venus arriving in Taurus at the end of the week, it's bringing a slightly selfish and possessive energy, because sometimes on the flip side, even though Taurus is a very soft and cuddly, mellow, usually, energy, on the flip side, it can be a little bit self-indulgent. And have you heard of that expression, waving the red flag in front of a bull? A little bit like that too. Sometimes the energies can be a little bit possessive. So take care with that, either with yourself or with someone else. So each of the signs, Aries, for you, it's about money issues, which could reach breaking point. And maybe you should be thinking about why you're wasting so much money. Are you trying to buy love or affection? Or maybe hoping to keep up with someone else's spending? You need to stop, because you know better than this. So the energies of the Mercury in Taurus retrograde brings up issues from the past, and then Venus in Taurus, which is all about highlighting things around money. It's triggering the second house of money for you. If you're a Taurus, you're defining your worth by how loved you think you are this week under these influences, or maybe even by how much money you have. So take care with that, because it's not all about materialism. You are not defined by what you have or how you look. Your task this week is to instead realize your true worth, which comes from within yourself. So this is a test this week to dig deep, reach within yourself. It's not superficial. It's more about what's inside. And with the Mercury retrograde in your sign, it might be reviewing things from the past to help you find those answers. If you're a Gemini, a dreamy, imaginative vibe makes it hard for you to get much done. And your attention to detail could use some work, because with the Mercury retrograde, it's all about missing the detail, which typically you're pretty good at. But under this influence, it's more you could even be tired or sleeping more so and having more vivid dreams with this energy. And then with these two planets, Mercury and Venus, affecting you, it's more about wanting to be in the ethereal and looking at the big picture rather than focusing on any detail. However, think of this as like you're storing up good ideas for the future, even if you can't act on them yet. This might be a really great time for brainstorming for you, and anything that you've done previously, it's a good time to pull that off the shelf again. If you're a Cancer, friendships are important, and a good friend rides to your rescue as someone hurts your feelings. So you might be surprised on who might come to your aid this week, and it might be someone who you haven't heard from in a while, someone from the past, someone you haven't spoken to. So keep all the doors open, and every sort of response you might get on social media, that person might be the one that could help you. And let those who care for you and nurture you know exactly how much they mean to you. Don't hide your affection. Not that you typically do, but as a Cancer, sometimes if you're hurt, you might retreat into your shell. This is not really the time to be doing that. Leo, charm is helpful at work, and you can certainly turn head now in your career, because Mercury and Venus will be traveling through your career sector. So again, be careful not to overpromise and follow up everything you say with fact, because if you do overpromise, you might not be able to realistically deliver on those promises, and then you'll have pie in the face. So be careful with what you say, what you present. Make sure it's factual, make sure it's backed up, and also match your ideas to your current skill level for the best results. Don't overinflate yourself, and don't be too rigid in your ideas. Try and be as flexible as possible and open to what others have to say. If you're a Virgo, get out of the house or office as much as you can. Travel may inspire you and will help you to get out of your mental or emotional rut this week. So just be careful though. Travel will inspire you, but be careful when making travel plans. Mercury Retrograde is notorious for screwing up any sort of travel plans. If it's unavoidable, take care, get to the airport or the train station early. Don't leave it till the last minute. You don't have to go far if you do want to be, if you are inspired by travel. There are plenty of places locally which will do the trick as well. It doesn't have to be a far, far away place. If you're a Libra, perhaps you might be caught in a power struggle this week. So if so, use diplomacy and kindness to disarm your opponent, as you almost always do. And doing the right thing matters this week and will eventually benefit you, even if initially it appears to help someone else more. Now, as a Libra, you like to find balance, you like harmony. Disharmony is not a good thing for you. Power struggles, not very good at all. There might also be some money issues that you're dealing with this week as well. What's yours, what's theirs, what's ours, that type of thing. If you're a Scorpio, Venus boosts your relationship, but watch out for jealousy and possessiveness on your part. Now, Scorpio, you do have a bit of a reputation for that. And with these Taurian influences going on for you, that's a double whammy of jealousy and possessiveness. So take care with that. And if you don't trust your partner, why are you together? If you do trust them, let them fly free. It really can be black or white. There aren't any shades of grey here. So this week will be a test of that. Sagittarius, what's your diet and exercise routine this week? It's easy to either forget it altogether or to go to the other extreme and push yourself too hard. So this is all about reviewing something from the past, specifically around diet and exercise, health, or even in your job. Be careful what you say to colleagues, because it may come back to bite you. Moderation in all things will help you to stick to your health goals. If you're a Capricorn, joy comes from the simplest things, and especially from your relationship with children and with pets and animals. You're sensing what really matters this week, and you're inspired to less time worrying and more time giving. Also, I'd mentioned before, there might be a lover from the past that reappears. Some of you Capricorns out there might be shaking in your boots. Others might be looking forward to or anticipating such things. Either way, a risk that you might have taken previously might re-emerge again this week. It might come up again, or you might have to be dealing with something from the past where you took a risk. If you're an Aquarian, every family has its difficulties. Despite yours, this is a very loving week within the home, and you may feel a true sense of togetherness with your loved ones. But, as I said, please be careful with what you say to family members, as you should always be. Some are more sensitive than others at this time. Perhaps this week is a good use of energy to bring a difficult relative back on board. And finally, if you're a Pisces, don't allow your mind to stagnate. If you're stuck in a job which doesn't challenge you, learn something new or train in a new skill. Research something interesting in your spare time. Keep your brain ticking. It's crucial during this period of Mercury Retrograde. Anyway, thanks for joining me this week on the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, and I look forward to next week's show.